Hello, everyone. Welcome to our special talk with Julien Pebrel. Julien, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
So as you may know, Julien Pebrel is a French photographer represented by MYOP agency, which is based in Paris and represents documentary photographers. Today, Julien is our guest because he's one of those photographers who decided to settle in Georgia, and he's living between two countries, so France and Georgia. And this reality has shaped the way that he photographs the country, because as he's part of the local life, he is able to go beneath the surface and the exoticism that can be found in a country like Georgia. And that's what you've been doing actually with your projects. And to start with, like, minorities, we've talked about the minority that we can find in the south of Georgia at the border with Turkey and Armenia. So we're going to watch the slideshow for minorities. bit about this project and why it was important to you to work with these minorities?
Well, to say the truth, so this project is made with a comrade and friend Clément, who's here, who's a writer and journalist, and he came to me with this wonderful idea. I remember very clearly where it was, and telling yeah, I found this road from the south. If you go from Batumi to Tbilisi, we can make a story about all those minorities that you can find in this country. So we made it in 2017, and just the idea was to show that this country, where maybe in all the country there is this notion of national identity, what it is to be Georgian. We have the same thing in France, and don't be scared. What it is to be French, what it is to be blah blah blah. There is a lot of people who are maybe not exactly in the frame of this identity, who are not ethnically Georgian, or who are not Orthodox, or but still they live here, and they live here for a long time, just because history at some point brought them here. And it was the main idea was this, to show that on a very tiny road, and we were not able to show everybody because there was also some Ossets and a lot of other groups we were not able to meet. But the idea is that this country is maybe much more diverse than some people want to say. And again, it's not something that is specific to Georgia. We have this kind of problematic in other territories. So yeah, we started from Batumi. We met Muslim Georgians in Ajara. Then we met Meshket. I hope I'm not pronouncing bad. Meshket. Jewish, Armenians, Dukhobor, Pontic Greeks, Azeri, even Germans. First time I heard there was some German in Georgia. Catholic Georgian also. Well, it was just a very tiny part of the incredible diversity of this country.
And then you went to another project, which was along the Anguri, which we can maybe watch now, please. Feel that there is a strong link between the people and their territory. Is this how you worked on this project?
This is something that I'm quite, that I always try to do. The way I'm very often more interested by the territory, and then how like history has shaped this geography, how it has shaped the life of people living here. It is some kind of like, when you study geography, first you can just study the map and the landscape, but you can also decide to make something like more, I don't know, like sociological, and also discover this territory through the like history and the life of the people. So yeah, very often, this was the case before. We decided with Clément to follow this road. This was also the idea here. We were also interested by the very same idea, like let's find like some either road or river to follow in Georgia. And of course, you don't want to do it for nothing. You search for a place or a trajectory which is going to be meaningful and which is going to say something about the history of the country. So quite quickly, the idea of Nguri came, and when you start from Nguri, to follow the road of this river, you start from Zvanity, which is maybe one of the oldest and most traditional parts of Georgia. Then you arrive to all those part of Nguri where the river is the border with Abkhazia, so this is like something very contemporary. Then you have this village called Potshuatseri, which is like an incredible place. The village was built to host all the workers who were building the Jvari Dam. And once the dam was built, almost everybody left, and it's almost empty. And the only people who are living here today are refugees from Abkhazia. Some came there quite quickly, and some came when they were expelled from Tbilisi more recently. And then, well, talking about the dam, it's also something very interesting because it's one of the, I think, very rare case of collaboration between Abkhazia and Georgia, because the dam is here, but the electrical plant is in Abkhazia. And then you continue and you arrive on the Black Sea. There is this incredible project which never happened of making a new city in Lazika, I forgot. Lazika. This photo is taken in a place called Shamgona. This is a place I was dreaming during like 10 years because one day I saw that there was this island on the Nguri River, and from one side it was Abkhazia, and from the other side it was Georgia. I know Abkhazia is Georgia, but still symbolically it was something very strong. Well, I was kind of disappointed because it's a big island and you never have this feeling that you're in the middle of it, but still it was very interesting. The people were talking there about the difficulty to cross the border and everything. So yeah, still the idea was to explore some kind of road, and through this road, I think Clément really wrote it at some kind of carnet de route. I don't know how to translate it. I'm sorry. Yeah, some kind of diary of the road. But through this, you can talk about a lot of contemporary questions, and also, like, let's say, a not very old history of the country. So yeah, this is something that is. At least the way I don't think that this is the way we have to work, but the way I like to work. I really discovered, I started photographing when I started to travel. And I started to travel because I was reading travel writing, like, I don't know, Nicolas Bouvier and this kind of people, Ella Maillard, they are all from Switzerland. And it was very, very linked. So it's still something very present for me, the idea of travel and photography, and territory and photography.
And then after this project, you decided to work on the Kingdom of Dali, that you called?
Yeah, well, we decided to work on shepherds, and we arrived there.
And this was a bit different because it wasn't a journey like the two projects before, but to go into one community.
Yeah, d'accord. Well, the first two ones were indeed travel, which means that you go from a place to another and you stay 3 days, 4 days. It's very interesting, but in a way you always feel that there is more to explore in the place where you are staying, like, not a lot of time. And me, before doing this, the projects I made before Georgia were really on a very small place. Like I traveled 5 times to a small village in Romania, and this is the only place of Romania I know, and I stayed only there. So the idea with this, yes, was to stop moving and to stay somewhere with a very small group of people. So it's in Chachuna, the border with, not far from the border with Azerbaijan. And I don't know, we had not very clear idea. We wanted to spend some time with shepherds. It was some kind of driven by the pleasure of imagining that you will be with some shepherd during some days in wonderful landscapes. We took the road to Dedopitrano, and we were supposed to meet there the people in charge of the natural reserve, and they were supposed to help us to find some shepherds. But finally, on the way, our taxi driver first explained that this is the shittiest idea you can imagine, because like they sleep on the floor, and you're going there with a girl, and they haven't seen any girls during 6 months. And what's more, this is the season of snakes, and he drew some kind of landscape of what was going to happen, which was terrible. And then he said, but you know what? I think it was his son, a friend of his son, was the owner of a huge cattle. And he said, I will call him, and maybe the shepherd working for him will be happy to meet you. And after 30 minutes, it was done. The guy said, well, just come. It was very, well, I'm not very familiar with the specificity of Georgian, but I heard this is the way Kakhetien are doing. The guy said, you just come somewhere and you will find this place. It was not like, come on. And we arrived there, and the dog were very nice. We didn't saw any snake. Everything was okay for the girl. They were supposed to be 7 shepherds living together, but 2 were in holidays with their family, so we had 2 beds. It was very luxury. And for me, this is the most beautiful moment I spent taking photography. I mean, the landscape is incredible. Those 5 guys are just, I don't know how to say it, like amazing people. Very welcoming, very deep. Some type of person that you don't really meet now. People connected with the nature. They can walk all day long and just enjoy the fact that the clouds are in the sky, and something very poetic, but not so. I mean, absolutely not idealistic. But because when a small lamb is dead, they take it and they cut it in 2, and the dog are going to eat it. So it's not some idealized and paradise idea of this activity. The life of this man is like tiring. They wake up with the sun. They come back at night very late. They live in like very hard condition, but they have something very very beautiful. So it was quite short because they don't have, of course, no electricity, and after 4 batteries of my camera, we had to come back. So we stayed something like 5 days. And we are still in touch with them very often. It's a long time Beso didn't call, but sometimes they call and say, hey, come on guys, come back. We met them last year because they stay 6 months in the south, and then they stay in winter in the south. And then they move to Jawakheti for the summertime because it's too hot in this region in the summertime. And we met them last time on the way from Jawakheti to Chachuna. They stopped in Ustari with thousands of sheep on the suburbs of Ustari, and we spent 2 hours with them, which was something really beautiful also. And we will come back. No, but this is, I mean, this is something that only photography or maybe filmmaking or journalism can give you, because you don't. If you're alone, if you're just a traveler and you come to see those guys and you say, I want to stay with you 1 week, they will be like, what do you want? Maybe they will do it, but still, when you're photographing, when you're filming, when you're writing, you have this incredible possibility to do this, and they offer you a bed, and then when they come back at night and they are so tired and they are smoking a cigarette like this, you are allowed to watch them during 5 minutes, which is something very weird, but you can be like this, just watching and taking photos, and this is something you can't access, really, for me, if you're not taking, if you don't have this excuse of documenting.
And are there other communities or territories that you would like to work on in Georgia?
We didn't talk about this question before. And there is a lot. I mean, this country is full of places that I would like to travel to, but because I saw, landscapes and I mean, I'm interested by the nature, maybe. But something like this, I don't think I will. No, I don't think you can reach this, because they live in a space which is like maybe 15 square meters. You have 5 beds, 1 stove, and that's it. And you are here with them. It's very complicated to reach this kind of intimacy with people so quickly, and to have access to something that is real. Because what's more, this is, maybe we'll talk about it later, but this is something that is so nice in Georgia compared to France. France is a country where it's very complicated to take photos. People are really obsessed with this idea of droit à l'image. I don't know how to translate it. Image. Yeah, the right to take photos of you and to dispose your photo. And in France, people are really méfiant. I mean, I have problem with my English. They are kind of paranoid. There is this kind of paranoia. They think that if you take photo of them, it's because you think something bad. It's because you're going to do. Really, this is a relationship of friends with photography. And when you arrive there, and those people are just like, yeah, come, well, she's very agréable.
And that you were working on this project, you also started naturally a new work which is called Chronicle 1 for this one, where you said you actually came back to black and white photography that you used to do before, like when you started photography, and you started to photograph daily moments.
Yeah. Well, at the very beginning, my story with Georgia was, I would say, professional. I came here to work. This is the first time, the first thing. Then I stayed for some personal reason, and my history with this country became both professional and also, I would say, more intimate. I was living here, my girlfriend is here, I have a kid here, so quite quickly came the idea of how can I also photograph this part of my relationship with the country. At the very beginning, it was something really like playful. During 10 years, I was working as a professional documentary photographer in Georgia, in France. I was working with some kind of style, which I was making like medium format color, 6:6. This is what people were expecting from me when they were hiring me to work, and I lost this pleasure that you can have when you start something new. Even when you start, I don't know, music or anything, of just trying some things. And my first, I discovered photography with black and white 35 camera. I mean, it's hard. And at some point I stopped because you cannot make a living with black and white photography, and I also really enjoyed when I discovered color. And coming back here, I had some time and also some different disposition of my mind, and I started playing again. I took this new camera, which is a very small point-and-shoot camera. You have nothing to set. It's a very different type of photography than what I was doing before. When you work with medium format camera, you take like 5 minutes to take one single camera. You're working with a light meter, sometimes with a tripod. Everything is like really well composed, and this is something that I really liked, but you lose the instinct that you can have sometime in photography. I started, at the beginning it was really like, okay, I'm in a new city, I don't know what to do here, so let's go out and take photography. And then slowly the idea came that, let's build something that would be the reflection of my part of my relationship with this country, which is not only shepherds and mountains, but also like the life of Tbilisi, the surrounding. Tbilisi can be a very hard city also. I mean, if you live here, you know that you can be oppressed by the car, by the pollution, by the rhythm of the city. So that's also why I went to a different kind of photography, which was maybe more trembling, black and white, darker, and it was simply a way to just to apprehend the surrounding that you're discovering a new environment. I mean, it's strange because we talked about it before, but it was when you make documentary photography in the mountains of Georgia, everything is so beautiful. And to say the truth, it's not very complicated to make good photography there. I mean, if you know how to set your camera and how to compose, it's okay. And 90% of the beauty of the image comes from the incredible beauty of what you have in front of you. Tbilisi is not a very beautiful city, and sometimes it can be hard. But the idea that I will try to find something beautiful in this complicated place. I mean, it's something that you need not only as a photographer. I mean, just also as a human being. And if you live in deep shit and you're able to see beautiful things in this deep shit, it helps you to see. It helps you to live also. When you do this, I mean, I was telling you, I live in Saburtalo, on Tinta Kucha. This is like terrible, only blocks. If you go out of this place, you don't have a walk there. You don't have any reason to have a walk there. If you go there, if you have a walk with your camera, you will watch things really differently. You will search for some lights. You will search for this, which is some kind of petrol on the soil. It's disgusting. If you're just walking there, you will say, "What the fuck is this?" If you have your camera. And if you try to make something from it, it really changes the way you perceive your environment. And this is the night we met Otto and Michi.
And you were also saying that by doing this work, you were also getting your eye used to actually watching more around you, what was happening.
Yeah, this is well, this is a long process of living somewhere and photographing a place. It's not something specific to Georgia. This is something that, I mean, I guess can happen in all the country. But of course, when you arrive somewhere, first your eyes are caught by something, and by the things that are different from your environment. This is what we call exotism. And there is some exotism anywhere, just not only on the beach with some sun. I don't know, exotism in Georgia can be this kind of, there is this brutal architecture. Some people like this so much. There is even some kind of pornography of the old, derelicted building. And of course, when you arrive here, you want to take only photo of this because it's catching you. And also you have some expectation of how it will be, because you saw things before, but very often you saw things before from people who came 2 weeks and who themselves had their eyes shaped by what they saw before. So it's very important at some point just to clean your eyes. And at the very beginning, when I was going out, I wanted to take photos of everything. Most of those photos are in the garbage now, and you learn to take photos of more basic things, because in a way Tbilisi is very different from Paris, but the life of the people is still the same. No one is in the street with a horse wearing a chocha, and that's not Georgia. It's not existing anymore. So still you have bars, you have and yeah, then you try to go to something more banal, maybe, but this banality is like closer to maybe the life of the people. The rest is true also. I mean, those rooms and everyone is interested in refugees and everything. It's real. It exists. But the problem is that when it catches the attention of all the photographers coming, and then you don't see that there is a lot of random things. Okay. I will talk louder, I'm sorry.
And so by doing this work to photograph every day, like more banal things, did it also change the way you were seeing Tbilisi? Because you also mentioned afterwards that you went through another process of photography going back to color with Chronicle 2. So and you said like you came back to learning new techniques of photography.
Well, it's changing with the life, and the life is changing with photography. But this is it's something like this. At the beginning, the first time I came to Tbilisi, I said, "Wow, this is the city I want to live in." I was in Sololaki, so wow, it's so beautiful. And now I live in Saburtalo Kucha. So of course you learn to dislike the place, but the same thing with I'm talking about Tbilisi because we are talking about Georgia, but it's not that I have something against this city. This is the same thing for Paris for me. Now, yes, I see the city differently. I know that some places are, I would say, touristic places. They are real and they exist, but they are just here because some tourists are coming. If no one was coming, it won't be like this. And some places are the places where people live. And this is a kind of double process. And and then I continued. This is some kind of second part of the Chronicle, which is like nothing else than like photography diary, and this idea of playfulness and continue to experiment continued. At the very beginning, like part of I would say that my job was in Paris, and Tbilisi was more the place of experimenting photography. And I rediscovered some very old idea that I had a long time ago of shooting with pinhole. Pinhole is this kind of ancestor of photography where you just have a very small hole and the light goes into the hole, and very often it's something that is used, of course, in analog. You can make a pinhole for anything, a can or just a box, and you put a paper film inside. But when you use it like this, it's very, you must use a tripod, you can only take photos of landscape or portraits with like 10-second exposure. But I liked very much this aesthetic. And one day I decided to play with a pinhole, but with a digital camera, with the idea that there is no reason only to have this experimental approach only with analog. Like the people like to play with analog camera and make the shittiest thing you can imagine. They are going to use a 10-year-old film and put it in some wine. It's called soup film. You put a film in wine and then you process it. I mean, and I said, okay, like, why not also playing with digital? I'm not going to give all my recipe, but if you decide to like push the ISO, underexpose, blah blah blah, you have this kind of grain appearing. It's absolutely not post-production or anything like this. And I liked the what it was kind of mood it was giving. For me, it was something very similar to I would say Super 8. We say it's Super 8. It's a very old camera, 8mm camera, and it was a moment of my life when I was seeing things in color. Like my little boy came and everything was is still shiny and in color. So I stopped, not stop, but really reduced the quantity of black and white, and decided to build another like second part of the Chronicle. It's a diary, so like I could decide that the first part is finished and it will be 2017, 2020 done, and then I go to the rest. Still, sometimes I like to use the black and white also, but that's it.
And are there any other projects that you're working on at the moment that are a continuity of the Chronicle or other projects?
Continuity of the Chronicle, not really. I'm continuing this. At some point, I also made some small videos, Chronicle, like 30-second black and white, say steady shot, from different parts of Tbilisi. It was also, again, this idea of playing I think this is something important when you take photos. I mean, if you, me, I'm working for 10 years, and at some point you can be bored by what you do. I mean, really, this is something that if you decide that, either you decide that you stop and you do something else, and why not? I mean, life can be made of chapters like this. But if you want to continue, the idea of playing, making new things is something important. So I made this. We have like more documentary projects we are working on with Clément and Taco. We worked in Pankisi, the valley. It's very interesting, but it was a bit more complicated to work, because I guess that people there at some point maybe feel a bit, you can say, stigmatized by maybe by journalists. So you have to convince them more to be photographed, which is really different than the rest of Georgia, where you arrive in any village and it's like, hey, come on. And what's more, it's also very strange with the architecture and the urbanism, I would say, of the houses is different. So you have these huge walls which are enclosing the houses, and it's even more complicated to be connected to the people inside. So we worked there last year, 2 years ago, and we are planning to continue on this, and then I'm also working on some with Tamar on some documentary, video documentary project, it was also like this idea of discovering something new, experimenting. I never filmed before. I discovered this. I have to say that sometimes I almost think that I prefer filming now than taking photography. At least if you consider that you decide to film being really free. This is what I'm trying to do now. This is the same kind of intensity, but what's more, you have the time, and when time goes and you see something so beautiful happening in front of you, it's like a very beautiful feeling. And I think that's it, or I forget something. No. Well, we are working. We want to finish the project about Chachuna, the shepherd. What we saw here is like my photography, but there is also some videos shot by Tamar. And we plan to go back there with Clément and her and to like continue and try to build some kind of multimedia project with like text and video and photography. And all those projects are made, the three of us. I mean, the documentary one.
And what motivates you to stay and work in Georgia, other than the beauty of the country? You were mentioning also the history that people are still going through.
Yes, there's something that with what's more in English, it's more complicated maybe to explain for me. But you can feel, yes, you can feel here that let's say the history is not very far from now. Still, a lot of people that you can meet here, went through terrible things. Still today, every 50 meters you can meet something that I would say deserves to be told. And this is a country where me, at least, I feel that there is a lot of things to say here. There is a lot of things to tell. We worked on, if I make the list of all this desire, all the things I want to work with, I mean, it will last 10 years, I guess, or something like this. It's complicated to explain, but I would say when you go to France, I will say it this way, and when you hear the problem of the people, sometimes you can feel some kind of superficiality in what is really troubling the people, like going in holiday 2 weeks to ski, or this is a drama. People have really some drama for some things which are not really dramatic. And it can be very boring. We have, in France we say, problème de riche. A lot of people in France have a wealthy people problem, to try to translate it. And it transformed them in unbearable people sometimes. And me, sometimes when I go back to my home country, I feel that people are unbearable. Here, when you meet people and they tell you what they went through during the last 30 years, they are not fake problems. They are problems who deserve to be told, and what's more, it gives to a lot of people something very, very deep. I mean, I get that every human being is shaped by what he went through. And when during your life you went through nothing, you are different than people who during the last 30 years went through war, exile, poverty, the 90s in Georgia, the difficulty even today. I mean, so many people are not in the system and are living very tough conditions, going in Italy to be a cleaning lady when you are 50 or 60 because this is the only way to earn your life, or this kind of thing. So I'll say that here the history is very present. And we invented the concept of post-history because some countries are in this kind of post-history society where nothing is really happening anymore. This is the first thing. The second thing is that I told it, but as a photographer, this is a heaven because of the relationship of people to photography. Me, the first time I came here and I saw Tamar taking photos in the metro in front of people like this, 1 meter, and people saying hello, I was shocked because when you do this in France, you are insulted. So it's also very pleasing as a photographer. You are in the street, you don't want anything bad to the people, you just want to take a photo, and you can do it. And maybe you will make a new friend because the guy is going to talk to you and offer you a drink or just a smile or a cigarette, but still. So it's a place where it's very easy to photograph. And also, the city is very hard. We talked about this. For me, here you have this circle of the close people, friend, family, and out of this circle, for me, the life is a bit hard. The city is kind of oppressive sometimes, but there is something very beautiful in this circle in Georgia, in the relationship people have with their family and close friend. Something that is, for me, maybe stronger and deeper than what you can have in France also. So it's also something very beautiful to see and to live.
And so as a photographer, what would you advise other photographers who want to come in Georgia and photograph it in an authentic way, anyway, from what you were describing before?
I don't think there is any recipe for Georgia more than any other country. This is not, we talk about Georgia for like 1 hour, but it's not a Georgian problematic. You need time. I think this is the only thing you need. It is some time to clear your mind and clear your eyes from what is spectacular, and because everybody is, of course, impressed by the same things here. It's okay to come and to make these photos. I mean, you come, you have an assignment for a magazine, 2 weeks, you make this, because we are making photography for some people. If you work for a French magazine, it's going to be seen by French people who never came to Georgia, and they will be very happy to see the same thing that catch your eyes also. And that's okay, because it will give these people the desire to come and to discover. So I'm absolutely not judging this photography, but if you want to go to something else, either you decide not to take any photos which was taken before, like to avoid all the stories which were already shot, either you just need some time. Some time to discover that you shot something, but it was not relevant, it was not very interesting, it was spectacular for you, but here we don't really care about it. That you took photos of something in Tbilisi, but it's just some tourist attraction. I'm talking about Segolene, but it's the same thing if you go in a lot of touristic places. Taking your time is something very important when you work. Like, at least if you cannot stay 3 years, coming back, watching the images that you shot, and then when you come back, confronting what you are seeing now with what you shot before, and being able to know that yes, I shot this, it was a nice photo, but we don't care about it. It's I should take it off. I told the story. There is this incredible photos made by Jonas Bendixen in Abkhazia of people jumping from an old boat. Me, the first time I arrived in Sukhum, I asked to my translator, "Where is this boat? I want to shoot it." And now I'm ashamed. But yeah, you saw it. You came because you saw it, so you want to see it and you want to shoot it also. And you know that if you shoot it, you are sure that I have already one good image. It's okay. Yeah, today I would recommend to do the opposite and try not to be too much influenced by what you saw from the territory, because having influences by photographers is very good, but it's terrible when you come somewhere and during months you hate photography from this, and then you come here and you're not seeing anything, you're just you have some memories of what you saw in the magazines before.
Thank you, Julien. Do we have any questions for Julien? No. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Julien, again for your time and being with us. And
thank you for the invitation, and thank you to all the people who came.
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Thank you.